Rural vitalization is dear to the heart of President Xi. I mean, if you look at the several recent trips he took in Henan province, in Guangxi province, in Qinghai province, invariably he has been emphasizing the importance of rural vitalization. Based on my interpretation, basically he's talking about sort of a industrialized production model for the agribusiness in rural countries, benefiting mostly local farmers. And this production model leverages off very unique local characteristic, unique local specialty products. Several factories and companies he visited are of this kind. So I think the heart of this is really a economic development story for the rural communities. I think this is fundamental to everything about poverty alleviation. Without economic development, there will be no poverty alleviation, and that's for sure. I think what's unique about President Xi's agenda is that he has been hitting to Mr. Deng Xiaoping's core that let's get wealthy or let's get rich together. For the last 30, 40 years, I think a lot of people get rich, get very well off in cities, and I think it's very clear that there are still a lot of people in China that have been left behind in rural communities, and President Xi wants to change that. And I think his poverty alleviation, rural vitalization agenda is mostly about this. It's a people-centered agenda, especially in rural communities. So I think in China we are trying to close the gap between urban centers versus rural communities, and by doing this, the government plays a very important role.
And John, that being said, what is the next step? What will that look like? Because here we are now. So how do you move to the next level? Because the point is not to turn these areas into urban areas, right? I mean, you still want to retain the characteristics, but you're not trying to turn them into a mega city.
No, I think we're talking about building a new countryside, what we call the rural vitalization. In other words, think about, I would make the analogy, think about, some very nice communities, rural communities on the suburbs of Washington, D.C., for example, in Virginia. I mean, there are very nice places in Virginia. I think China is doing something very similar. Let the rural communities, people living in these communities have a decent life, have a higher standard of living that are comparable to city dwellers. That means that they have decent housing, they have decent infrastructure, and also I want to make a very important point. Also, you have to develop the cultural goods as well, cultural development. I think it's very clear that there's a huge gap in that aspect between the city and rural communities. It's not just about building better housing, building better industries. It's also about cultural and spiritual life. We need to have some very decent, very good community services and community lives for people living in the countryside.
John, we're almost out of time, about 30 seconds left, but just some examples here. We've seen how some farmers and craftsmen have gone viral on social media. They're selling some of their products and their produce online with e-commerce. Are those some of the things that we could see more of?
Absolutely. I think e-commerce plays a vital role in China's rural vitalization. Previously, we were not able to do this because there's the role of the middleman, and the costs are very high. It's very difficult to sell local producers to an international market and the national market. But now all of a sudden it's possible because we're talking about industrialized agro-business. We're talking about e-commerce to not just China, but also international markets as well. I think e-commerce really changes everything. There's a company that President Xi visited in Guangxi province. The company, the industrial park, makes a product called a rice noodle with river snail flavor. It's a great product. It's in Liuzhou city of Guangxi. Now it's becoming it used to be a homemade dish, a delicacy, but now it's become an industrialized product sold internationally as well as in China as well.